Hi guys, welcome to Beautiful British English and another bite-sized fluency lesson. Today I'm going to teach you some really interesting alternatives to this very overused and often boring word, if. So in today's lesson I'm going to introduce you to lots of alternatives to if. We're going to start with two very interesting alternatives, when and whether. Before we get to those, let's just have a look at what if actually does in our conditions. Yeah, so I will buy a new car if I win the lottery. So if I win the lottery, if is being used to create an adverbial phrase which in our condition, if this is true, then this action will happen. So if I win the lottery, I will buy a new car. Yeah? So that's a condition. You should understand conditions. But if is basically describing the possibility of something happening. Yeah? Only the possibility that something will happen. Now, another alternative, when you want to describe something that will happen, yeah, there's not a possibility of it happening, you know this action will happen, you can simply use when. So for example, I will buy a new car when I win the lottery. When is allowing you to describe that winning the lottery is going to happen. Yeah, you are definite about it. It is a definite action. Now, obviously, I cannot be definite that I will win the lottery. I wish I could be, but I'm not. So I can't really use when in this sentence, because when I win the lottery doesn't really make sense because I don't know if I'm going to win the lottery first of all. But you can certainly use when in lots of sentences, lots of conditions when the action is definite. Yeah? So, I don't know, let me try and give you an example. When I buy a new car, I will buy a Peugeot. When I buy a new car, I will buy a Peugeot. Yeah? So, in the future, I will buy a new car. I am certain of that. That is a definite action in the future. And when I choose to buy a new car, I will choose a Peugeot. So I've spoken about something that's definite. Yeah? When is for something that's definite. On lots of occasions, you might want to give somebody alternatives, particularly two alternatives, yes or no, black or white, pizza or pasta. Yeah, and that's where whether comes in. So you might say, I don't know whether you would like pizza or pasta. So instead of using, I don't know if you would like pizza or pasta, we're going to use whether in this instance because we're giving somebody two alternatives. I don't know whether you want to go to France or to Spain. Yeah? So whether is used when we're going to offer somebody two alternatives. We can create the same sentence using if, but if implies there are many, many, many more alternatives. With whether, we just have two alternatives. Right, now let's take a look at some more interesting alternatives that you can use instead of using the word if all the time. So here we have some great examples. This is not a definite list, there are more alternatives that you can use, but there are 5 really interesting alternatives to if, and if you want to start sounding more fluent, perhaps you should start using these more regularly. So, providing that, unless, as long as, however many, and wherever. Let's give you some very specific examples of how you can use these as alternatives to if. Starting with providing that. So, you can borrow my workbook if you give it back to me by the end of today. I used if to create the condition. If you give it back to me by the end of today. We can simply replace if with providing that. You can borrow my workbook, providing that you give it back to me by the end of today. It's a very straightforward replacement, if for providing that. Okay, unless we would use slightly differently. You can only go to university if you get good grades at school. You can only go to university if you get good grades at school. Unless would require us to rework our sentence, so we can't just simply replace if with unless. You can't go to university unless you get good grades at school. You can't go to university unless you get good grades. Yeah? So it's a more interesting way, it's a different way of saying the same thing. As long as. Let's talk about pollution. If we don't stop using our cars for travelling, pollution will only get worse. Yeah, so I'm going to use as long as to replace if, but again, it requires us to change our sentence structure. Pollution will only continue to get worse as long as we continue using cars. Yeah? So using unless and as long as allow you to say the same thing but with a very, very different sentence structure. So now let's move on to however many. Let's talk about books. So you can learn all about computer programming if you read lots of books. You can learn about computer programming if you read lots of books. Now again, however many requires us to say the same thing in a very, very different way. For example, with however many, we might say, computer programming is very difficult to learn, however many books you read. Now obviously, wherever is a word that's going to be used to describe a location or a place. And perhaps you want to be talking about travel. This is particularly useful if you're talking about travel in your IELTS exam. Instead of saying, if I go to Berlin on holiday, I will see the wall. You might say, wherever I choose to go on holiday, or wherever I go on holiday, I like to immerse myself in the culture. So, these are all alternatives to if that require you to think differently and say something differently in much more interesting ways, much more fluent ways, which you guys should be practicing and using, especially for your IELTS exams or any other English exam, but generally to sound more fluent and to stop saying the same thing, if plus a condition all the time. Say it differently, say it better.